Huey, is Mimosa album number 3, or is it a kind of a stopgap thingamabob before the real album number 3?
It is like a stopgap thingamabob. We had all these songs written. We did all this lounge stuff for years, and we figured through all the people on our internet site saying they wanted to get a whole different versions of songs, we put them all together on one little thing, just in time for Christmas.
Indeed, yeah. Okay, when you say lounge stuff, I mean, like, is that getting something out of your system in some way?
Oh, absolutely. We have this really bad chemical imbalance that we like doing Fun Lovin' Criminals rock stuff, you know, or whatever our normal stuff is. But we also have this little weird kind of variable to our personalities where we want to be a lounge act in a Holiday Inn. So we take, you know, songs that people wouldn't normally think of a band like us doing, like Crazy Train or something like that, and kind of lounging it out.
Crazy Train as in Ozzy?
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the
absolutely, yeah. To an extent where I was such a fan of Randy Rhoads that we didn't put a guitar solo in the song. Because there's no way you can really kind of do that guitar solo. That guitar solo is pretty mind-bending.
The late Randy Rhoads, yeah. Right. Okay, like, have you got a thing that you remember songs when you were growing up, like really terrible songs from the 70s and 80s, that you now feel maybe aren't that terrible at all, and because of history, or because of rose-tinted glasses, or because you were wearing diapers at the time or whatever, you say, that's a good song, actually, I was wrong?
Some of them, yeah, like Couldn't Get It Right was a song that I always knew when I was a kid, so we redid it for the Mimosa record. But there's songs like I Built This City by the Starship.
On Rock and Roll.
That I know all the lyrics to that I'm just ashamed of, you know. But you listen to all these radio stations and it all just comes back to you, you know. Like Rod Stewart's song, Do You Want My Body? Yeah, I mean,
Do You Think I'm Sexy? Yeah. You mean you don't like Do You Think I'm Sexy?
I liked the song when I was a kid. I don't like it now, and I'm really upset at the fact that I know all the lyrics, you know.
Right, yeah. What about good music you listened to when you were growing up?
Yeah, I still listen to that stuff, Earth, Wind and Fire, and a lot of Bob James. I like Bob James.
But I was thinking like that maybe there's a lot more blues in you in terms of what you might have listened to, certainly in terms of your style of music than...
Yeah, I've always listened to blues. Buddy Guy kind of got me through the rough spots, and B.B. King taught me how to talk to girls, you know.
And you met B.B. King, and you worked with B.B. King.
Oh, he's fantastic.
So is it like...
It makes me cry every time I see him.
Why? Because of what you remember?
Just because he's such a legend, and he's such a nice guy. He's like disarming, he's so charming. Well, that's a rhyme.
It is. You can use that. Actually, how does it come together, song-wise?
Stuff like this, it just kind of hits you. Keith Richards said that we receive and transmit. We don't really make stuff up anymore. It's kind of hard to. So if you get some kind of idea that's good, just take it wherever you can get it.
Barry White saved my life, and if Barry White saved your life or got you back with your ex-wife, sing Barry White. Barry White, Barry White, it's alright, it's alright. Now I was watching Banachek, my mind's eye right back when I was seed and learning about life. At night it came together, it gave me sight. He said it's better doing this than sucking on the pipe. Now when she came over, she brought the discus on and on. She promised to kick this, EWF, stole my breath. When he finished, there was nothing left. Barry White saved my life, and if Barry White saved your life or got you back with your ex-wife, sing Barry White, Barry White, Barry White, Barry White, it's alright, it's alright.
Well then what is your music? I mean, if it's urban, cool, whatever it happens to be, if it's New York City, if it's the other side of Luscious Jackson and the Beastie Boys, would that be right?
I don't know, it's eclectic urban music, and it takes on a whole bunch of different, you know, faces throughout the records that we play. I mean, one song like Minibar Blues, for instance, with B.B. King sounds a lot different than Southside, you know. But I don't really, that's your job to classify it.
Okay, well, the Minibar Blues to me is a song basically about, I'm getting a bit homesick. I don't want to be on the road too much anymore.
Yeah, that's what it is. When you start drinking gin, you know you got a problem.
Is that what you did on the...
Oh, yeah, I was just going through the Minibar. I was like, oh, God, this is terrible.
Huey, why do I get the impression that none of you guys ever really like listened to the radio years ago and said, your man's up there on the stage, your man's doing this, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life too. It just kind of fell into place completely by accident with you people. And when you got a record deal, it was like, sorry, what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody thought we were economically viable, you know, to make money for a record company, but they did. And, you know, I guess, you know, 6 years later, we're still trying to make the record company some money, you know.
Which you do in one part of the world called Europe.
Yeah, we do okay in Asia too. And you know, I kind of always thought that the United States was kind of a weird place to make music anyway. It was very segregated racially, you know. So if you're making music that isn't necessarily white music or black music, you kind of fall between the cracks. And with record companies, they like to talk a big game. When it comes down to it, if it doesn't fit into the formats of the radio or MTV and stuff like that, there's really nothing they can do.
Well then, like, is it the exception that proves the rule? Like, what cracks did the Beastie Boys fall through? They're white doing what's supposed to be black music. They get to #1 in the States on the album charts.
Well, it's easy for them to do what they do because they're kind of slapstick, you know. I mean, I guess black folks can and watch their music and go, oh, those white boys are just so funny. And of course, you know, white kids watch it and go, well, I want to be like that. So it helps, you know, to be slapstick like Three Stooges. Unfortunately, we're not as goofy as them. We'd like to be, but we just can't find it in our hearts. But we got this thing going with our record company here that we're going to open up our own label in the States. So I guess if it all goes south on the third record, it's our fault rather than, you know, Virgin Records, you know.
Okay, well, tell us then about the city you're from, because I mean, you definitely, in terms of your music, in terms of your demeanor and everything else, you are New York City to everybody who isn't from New York, certainly to everybody over this part of the world. You epitomize the whole thing. Well,
we try to, you know, reflect what goes on there, really. You know, you have groups that come out of New York. Let me see, like, well, I don't want to say Luscious Jackson because I like them a lot. But bands, you know, more hip-hop grooves, they make up stuff. They make up all the things that they wish were true. We actually write about things that actually are happening. So in a lot of ways, if you make fun of what's going on, especially the system of the music business in the United States, they're not going to have you in it if you're mocking them. So I think that's our main problem over there. But I think people like to hear from their cousin Huey about what goes on in the United States, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, like, if I said, like, you know, the Ramones, the Beasties, the Velvets, Fun Lovin' Criminals, the same line, it's all New York.
Well, God bless you. I mean, the Velvet Underground was one of my favorite groups. Lou Reed's great. They did stuff that we like to think that we're doing, which is being honest about what we feel and what we see, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, like, to be blunt about it, like, you know, Lou Reed could do with a bit of a sort of a personality transplant. I mean, you guys are the fun side of Lou Reed.
Yeah, I guess if Lou Reed was on Prozac, he'd be more like us. Right?
Do you remember the Ramones well?
Yeah.
And did they mean New York to you too?
Yeah, that record, Road to Ruin, was one of the first records I ever bought.
Right.
And I still have it with me now, and I listen to it all the time, and it definitely, it captures a point in time, that whole Max's Kansas City, the whole CBGB thing.
CBGB's, yeah, and, late 70s.
Yeah, with Johnny Thunders and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's what I always, when I was growing up, that's what I thought rock music was. I didn't think it was Anthrax or heavy.
So hold on a second, would you have been aware of CBGBs with Television and Blondie and Richard Hell and all these things?
Well, I was growing up in that neighborhood, you know, and I was...
in the Bowery?
Yeah, I was actually east of the Bowery a little bit, but you want to hang out where all the cool girls are at, so you go to these places, and I was really young, but they didn't really care, they just let you in. There was a band called the Brattles that used to play, that were like 14-year-old kids that did punk music and dressed like the Beatles.
Yeah. And like, when you're in New York, I mean, would you see Robert De Niro walking the street and say, hey, he's pretty cool because he's my main man?
I saw him once in a club, and I said, you know, it's nice to meet you, how you doing? You're fantastic, we all love you. You act like people like us, and you're doing a good job. And he was like, oh, thanks.
Just like that, yeah?
He was very nice, yeah. He was shorter than I thought he would be. I thought he'd be like this big dude for some reason, I guess because of the movies.
Do you have a favorite Bobby De Niro moment?
Well, yeah, there are a couple good ones. You know, there's also the one with the light in Godfather 2, where he turns the light out and shoots the mob guy. That's always a good one. Good facial. No, his facial expression is just like unbelievable. Because like, if I went to one Robert De Niro movie and if I said New York and then I said you are Fun Lovin' Criminals, I'd say Mean Streets. You are the musician. Some Johnny Boy. Yeah, well, I'm not saying Johnny Boy so much as, okay, maybe the Harvey Keitel character maybe a bit more, but like the whole idea of it. Well, yeah, that's like Scorsese and all those guys. They create art around people like us. I mean, they go to that neighborhood and they look at guys that grew up there and have to make their way there, and they create great movies about it.
Your brother Guido, he always talks about
1,000 people.
Look at him, he's on E! Television over there.
Into it. All of a sudden I look up and from the upper seats.
How do you get to go to the Grammys? What's that? You gonna hit Mom with the bread. Sorry, Mom. Take it easy. You've been
I'll take it.
Well, have you seen her? I tried to say hello to her. You know what she said to me? Nothing. She pretended I wasn't even there.
hit platform heels, nose job bills. Some look like the ill with the grill. Supermodels on my D, 1, 2, 3. He said 2 for you, 2 for me. Face like a saint, sucking like a sinner. Cooking makes you thinner, cooking makes you thinner.
When you started Fun Lovin' Criminals first, the three of you were from New York, but at the same time you're from very different parts of New York. And how many different parts of New York are there, do you think, since you know it so well? Will it be 15, 20, 30, 40?
Yeah, even probably more so. They're different neighborhoods, and within those neighborhoods, they're different parts of the neighborhood.
And have you lived in different parts of New York?
I lived all over the place. I haven't lived in Staten Island, which I'm thanking God for, but it's a nice place. I just haven't had the chance to move there yet.
So when you say New York, are we talking Manhattan mostly?
Well, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx.
Right.
The Bronx is a pretty crazy place, too.
And how long did you live in Chelsea, and what was it like?
I still live there now.
You still live in Chelsea?
I've been there about 4 years. It's a real different kind of neighborhood.
Artist enclave kind of place?
Well, yeah, it's a very gay neighborhood. Yeah. So when I moved in there, are you gay? I was like, no, I'm not. This is my girlfriend. They were like, well, what do you do? I was like, I'm a musician and she's a doctor. And they were like, oh, fantastic. You guys could be the token straight couple.
So, I mean, like, if I called to New York and you weren't in, I'd still meet you there. What's this I hear about 42nd Street? And what's this I hear about a wax model? Is this true?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing in New York about it, but yeah, they asked me to do Madame Tussauds wax thing. And I just thought it was so surreal that I had to go check it out.
You couldn't say no to that.
Yeah, they put you on a little pedestal, you stand there, and they twist you around, take pictures.
And like, if I go to Madame Tussauds, the most famous wax work in the whole world, in
You'll see Lenny Kravitz in a big rock pose, and then me standing next to him with like a glass of, you know.
Ah, you've just blown. You mean Lenny Kravitz is there?
Oh yeah,
that takes the currency down a little bit.
Yeah, I figured that wasn't, you know, but you know, what are you going to do?
So you're going to be a Madame Tussauds, yeah?
Right. Hypothetically, yeah.
So you have to go with it because it's so surreal.
Yeah,
in the same way as you have to go to the editor of Rolling Stone's house, Jan Wenner, and go to the Hamptons. Well, what happened when you went there? Did you say, hey, that's a huge house you've got there?
That's a mighty big house. Actually, his niece's boyfriend is like one of my best friends in New York, and that's how I met him. And yeah, they're really cool with me. They let me go out there and stay in a pool house and cause trouble. I mean, minor trouble, but still.
And what would you do? Like, you play at a party there and with all the celebrity types? What type of celebs would go to a jam?
I'll tell you a funny story. We're doing a little jam, and it's me and a couple of guys in the group, and my friend Chris, and there's this guy Mark Ronson, who's Mick Jones's stepson, and Mick Jones is there from Foreigner.
Foreigner, yeah.
And we're all kind of goofing around, and we're realizing that whoever's playing drums is really bad, you know. So we finish the track, and I go over to the guy who's playing drums, who I don't recognize. I don't know the guy. I was like, look, you know, why don't we give one of the kids a shot? You know, because all of Mark Ronson's brothers and sisters are like all great musicians. So I said, one of these little kids can play drums better than you. Come on, give him a shot. He goes, it's my drum set. I was like, hit the road. He's like, somebody walks off, and someone comes over and he goes, that was Ron Perlman.
Oh no.
And Ron Perlman's like, for those who don't know, is this billionaire guy who runs Revlon Cosmetics.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I'm not going to be getting any free touch-ups here and there.
No, exactly. It's about to marry that actress who used to be married to the Irish actor Gabriel Byrne.
Oh yeah, what's her name?
Thing. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, he's always got like beautiful women around him, I guess, so
right,
it helps being a billionaire.
Our program will return in a moment. An ovation.
If Madame Tussauds are going to do something, and if you do fashion spreads and people want to know about who you are, well, now and again, for the laugh, and you do all these things, like Huey is the man, he epitomizes New York, he's always cut out in a pretty good suit, you know, he's dressed pretty well because he wants, if the parents ever see him in the picture, they want to make sure that he's cool and all this. Movie's got to be next.
Well, we did a movie. When we were in Hawaii, we shot this short film called Maui Homicide 2000, and it's a cop drama, has a lot to do with drugs and girls and guns, and it's just something we thought would be funny, because we do the Huey's acting school. So instead of taking that, you know, again, doing the same thing again, we decided to make a big film for people to watch. So we'll be playing that tonight.
So in other words, you play that on stage behind you. Is that the same as
we play it before we come on. The big 20-foot by 40-foot screen comes down.
But that's not the same as the karaoke movie that you did throughout the set, which was like Scarface.
Oh, we'll be doing that too, yeah. We're going to do Carlito's Way, I think, though.
Carlito's, oh, why not?
It's a good Al Pacino.
Sean Penn with the hair.
Davy Kleinfeld.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right, so when you are live on stage, and it's a completely different show than anybody's ever seen from anybody else, that's one of the reasons people like you so much. You did 5 nights once in Dublin there, not so long ago, in the Olympia Theatre. Was that pretty special or pretty magical?
That was the
Or was it more magical 2 years ago when you thought nobody in Europe knew you, you come to Dublin to the Olympia, it's a big enough place with its balconies, and every single person is singing your songs?
Yeah, well, the first time we came here, it was like a dream. You know, we remember, me and Fast always talk about it. We remember getting off stage and just being completely amazed. And Fast actually said to me, I guess you're not going to be forgetting the lyrics anymore, huh? Because everybody's singing them back to you, so you can't forget them. And I was like, yeah, I guess. And then when we came back again with the 5 nights, I mean, I don't know, our booking agent, was, I guess, working some big deals or something, but the people came, and that was pretty scary, really, because, the second night we were trying to do something different, the third night something different.
It's very difficult to keep, I know.
We were going to come back here and do the Olympia again, because we like it so much, and they wanted us to do 8 nights. And I didn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, if you're going to do 8 nights, I mean, my body would be destroyed after 8 nights in Dublin. I could feel it happening already. I've been here 1 night.
But every time you're interviewed anywhere, like in anything you get off the internet or whatever else, it's always favourite place, Dublin, Ireland. What is it besides just the gigs you mentioned? Is there something you might recognise, like that's maybe even vaguely, completely different to, or the exact same as New York?
Well,
party.
No, it's not all party. There's kind of a way of life that New York and Dublin have in common. And it may not be a living in the moment kind of thing, but it's definitely an appreciation of the fact that we're all breathing right now. Maybe we should take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of good friends here, like Dermot here over at the Doran's bar. Always carrying my ladder with
Who
me.
you knew in New York, of course.
Yeah, him and his brother Eddie, yeah.
Doran's in New York, was that anywhere near the Limelight? You worked in the Limelight?
It was uptown from the Limelight a little bit.
In working in the Limelight, is there something about a place like the Limelight that gives you sort of underground cred before you even start as a band? Because it's kind of whatever.
Being a busboy, I think, gives you underground cred no matter where you do it. I mean,
what about art school, like Mick Jagger? No.
I don't know. But yeah, if you work in a nightclub as a busboy, you kind of can see everything from a different perspective. And the whole thing is you got to keep that perspective. You got to remember where you came from.
La-di-da-di, free John Gotti. La-di-da-di, la-di-da-di, free John Gotti. The king of New York, the king of New York. La-di-da-di, free John Gotti. La-di-da-di, la-di-da-di, free John Gotti. The king of New York, man, the king of New York. He got a clipper from a stripper, he met at a club. 2 sticks of dynamite, a 38 snub. He went to see the Don without an invitation until I set the gate with his dreaming demonstration. They was waving picket signs and the sea was on 9, and only Paulie got away with the skin on his behind. And back in the borough, the cops stacked and thorough. They raided Frankie's room, that's when they saw his bureau. There was a note with a rhyme that was told. How I was picking China and how I couldn't cope. It said I do a fly coach, never saved the roach. The king of New York, the king of New York. I said I do a fly coach, never saved the roach. The king of New York, the king of New York. I said I never fly coach, never saved the roach. The king of New York, the king of New York. La-di-da-di, free John Gotti. La-di-da-di, la-di-da-di, free John Gotti. The king of New York, man, the king of New York.
Do you remember all that stuff that was going on a few years ago, from like the East versus West, Tupac, and all this kind of stuff? Did you find that like just pathetic?
Yeah, it was silly. All that stuff is silly. Rap music is like professional wrestling now. It's all come full circle where you got Puff Daddy singing about Jesus now.
Yeah.
With his.
It's just guys shaping up. There's no real.
Yeah, they're just trying to sell records.
So
they're trying to blow up and get paid.
So is it like to have a gangster rap and up gangster rap?
Yeah, well, where we come from, gangstas, like the Bloods and the Crips, it's non-existent really.
Right.
And especially in New York, like we were talking about Mean Streets, in that movie it was a gang of 4 guys. They were a gang, 4 guys, not 400. So I guess New York's a little more immediate when it comes to stuff like that.
Okay, well there's a gang of 4 guys from this very city who started off as a band and became one of the biggest bands in the 1980s all around
I know
the
that
world.
gang, yeah.
You know Trouble. That gang, okay. And the Pop Mart tour of U2 around 96, 97 direction, you supported them. Was that good fun?
It was the most fun we ever had doing that kind of thing. We never played football stadiums. We had gone to see football games in these stadiums, but never played them. And they were just nothing but nice. They let us run around backstage and eat the catering and go play around in the dressing rooms and stuff. They're fantastic guys, and we love that they let us stay in their hotel and stuff.
The time you spent in the army, the time you spent as a Marine, does it seem like years and years and years ago now?
The circumstance of me going into the Marines was a little weird anyway, so I didn't really want to be there, but it was a lesser of 2 evils, rather that in jail. So when I was there, I kind of realized what the structure was, and I was allowed certain free time. So instead of becoming a really good beer drinker, which I knew I had time to do later in life, I decided to read and stuff. So I just went to the library and just grabbed books that I remembered from school that I read the crib notes at, and I just tried to read everything I could.
So like The Grave and the Constant on the first album comes from what for you?
Well, that's a quote from James Joyce. His quote about life, which is, I guess we all feel that way sometimes, where life gets the best of you and you're just on the verge of crying, and then you find something funny in it, and hopefully that'll get you through.
And did you enjoy your time as a Marine?
No.
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 You say it was one of the reasons was to avoid jail. You didn't exactly quite sort of fulfill that dream totally, have you?
Yeah, I've been getting in trouble since then. Not through my own, well, I guess it's my own fault.
If you were caught smoking something you shouldn't have been smoking at the corner of a New York street very recently.
Well, I was riding my BMX bike. I was moving. I was on, and yeah, these big fat cops came running out of this car, and we thought they were after guys behind us. So we kind of like paused and said, you know, go through, fellas, and they stopped in front of us. Yeah.
And is one of the reasons you might go around on BMX bikes in New York is that like it's less likely that they'd be wanting to get you?
Yeah, and the whole thing was I could escape like that, but the whole thing was we didn't think they were after us, so we kind of paused, and that was our mistake.
And how long did you spend in jail?
2 days or something like that.
And did you meet some interesting people in there?
Yeah, there were some wild things going on. There was a guy in jail in New York City for doing magic on the subway.
For what?
He was doing magic. He was doing magic tricks, and they threw him in jail.
Like one of these dice yokes on the streets in New York?
No. That's like a confidence game. He's actually saying like, you know, pick a card, any card. And they're like, yeah, your card is you're going to jail.
Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks. Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks. Now I don't give a fuck about the Hell's Gate, ain't funkin' the crowd, man, I'm still standing up straight. So we do these jobs, make a little money. No one gets hurt if they don't act funny. On the way to the yacht, we almost got caught. Fast shooting mailboxes going where the cops is, yeah. They at the Dunkin' Donuts, adjacent from the phone whose mailbox fast had just exploded. They gave chase from our man Steve's and Ace, and we lost those brothers with haste. We cast it off, and along we went off Bermuda to an island resort we rented.
Sunshine, I need you cool. Are you cool? Man, I'm cool.
Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks. Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks. Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks. Running around, robbing banks, all whacked off the Scooby snacks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Dylan.